Hey, everybody. Welcome back to In the Middle, the podcast that is pushing back against the two-party system in partisan politics. We are 2 days removed from the presidential election. Just a second ago, I started the live stream, but then I shut it off. So if you saw that and you're like, what the hell is he doing? It seemed like I didn't have audio going. Nothing was being picked up in the microphone. And I wear the headphones so I can make sure I can hear all the audio, so make sure that the mic levels are good, whatever. I know some people don't on their podcast. That's all good. But I wasn't hearing anything in here. So I thought, well, shoot, I might not have audio going again. Because if you guys remember back, there was a whole episode. I did an entire episode without audio on. Didn't realize it. So now I make sure to wear the headphones all the time, so I can make sure that the audio is coming through. But there for a split second, I didn't think we had it. So I started it and then I ended it. So anyway, for those of you listening on podcasts, Apple or Spotify, I apologize for the explanation. You didn't want to probably start the show listening to that. But welcome back, guys, to another episode. So we're 2 days removed. We still got a couple states that have not been called in the presidential election. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. And guys, the media, the liberal media is blaming men for Kamala Harris losing the election. I can't make this up. If I'm lying, I'm dying. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that today and play you guys a clip from that. But before we get too deep in the weeds, guys, if you have not went out yet and picked up your copy of the new book, We the Puppets, the audience for the best illusion ever performed, and now is the best time to pick up this book. It is relevant to what is going on in America today. And I think what we saw happen in the election, the direction it went, I think a lot of people are starting to ask the questions that I bring up in this book. What is going on in America? Why is the American dream seem so far away and out of reach for most people? If you've been asking yourself those questions, but don't have any answers floating around in your head or don't know how to articulate what you're seeing or feeling, pick up the book because I think it'll help answer those questions for you. For those of you that have done it already, thank you. The book has done well for a self-published book. It has done very well, and I thank you guys for that as well. If you guys are listening to this over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please just do me a huge favor. Take 5 seconds out, go leave a rating and review on the website. It'll help get the show up in the algorithm so more people can find it. So we still have a situation. Let me jump into the map right here, guys, because we still have a few states that have not been called by the media. And I don't know why that is the case. So going over here and looking to live election results, they finally called Alaska and Michigan yesterday. But as of this morning, we still have not called Nevada or Arizona. And I don't know what is going on with the media. I don't know why they're so reluctant to call these races. I know some people are hopeful that it's going to go Harris's way, or that the reason is because they're still looking for votes for Harris. And, I said it yesterday. I'm going to keep saying it. Michigan should have been called. That was obvious. There were not enough votes that were going to go, that were still out there that could possibly break for Harris without every single vote going for Harris, which, statistically, that is improbable. The probability of that is 1% or less. It's probably not even 0.1%. But we find ourselves in that same situation this morning. And so, let's just look at Arizona here so I can kind of give you guys an understanding of why I don't understand why the media just won't call the race. So down in Arizona right now, you've got Trump 52-46. Okay, so he's got quite the margin of victory right now down there. There's 70% of the vote counted or in. So basically Trump right now, with the way the votes are going, he's got 1.3, she's got 1.1. He has a sizable enough lead now with 70% of the votes in that Harris. So basically Trump with that lead, he's getting 5 to 6 votes out of every 10, right? So even if there's, a million more votes out there in Arizona, which there are not, that ratio would have to completely reverse and flip-flop. And Harris would have to get in order to close the margin and win, right? She would have to get 8 or 9 votes per 10, which again is a statistical improbability based off of the way the votes are coming in right now. So why the media hasn't called this race, I have no idea. I'm not sure what they're thinking. Same with out in Nevada. And, they wouldn't call Alaska until late yesterday. And I'm like, he's up by 16 points in Alaska. So, you can't close it. There's not enough votes up in Alaska to close that vote for Harris, but yet it took him all day to call that race. And I just don't understand. And even out in Nevada, right now you've got 90% of the vote in Nevada. And Trump has a sizable lead. It's almost a 4-point lead in Nevada. So again, he is getting, the vast majority. So if 10 votes are cast, Trump's getting 5 of them to 6 of them. Right. So, excuse me. So if Harris were to close that gap, again, all the votes that are left outstanding, she would have to close at like 8 or 9 votes out of every 10 because she has to close the margin that Trump is ahead by currently, and then overtake him. There's 2 problems. There isn't enough votes out there to do that. And 2, the statistical probability of her, the votes being cast flipping so drastically where she's getting like 7, 8, 9 votes out of 10 is improbable. The probability is less than 1% that happens, right? So again, it's not a big deal because Trump's already won. Because I know some of you out there are like, why do you even care? Like, why bring it up? Why talk about it? Because Trump has already won. And you're right. Once he won Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, all he needed was Alaska, the 3 points from Alaska to get him to 270, and he won. So the minute they called Pennsylvania, it was over. Regardless of what Michigan did, it was over. So why do I bring it up though? Because, I think we can get back to a place where we can count votes and have a decision on election day. Now, I know some of you out there would say, oh, well, but we got to make sure every vote is counted and it's better to count slow than fast. And I get what you're saying, but those are all really on the surface irrelevant points. And I'm going to point you to Florida, right? Florida is one of the most populous states in the country right now. It is on track to maybe catch Texas. And if enough people keep leaving California, maybe someday it would catch up to California. But Florida is one of the most populous states in the country, and they are able to count everything on election day. No problem. So if one state can do it, same with, Ohio, where I live, it's not one of the most populous states, but it's a larger state. We get all of our counting done in a day. And all I'm saying is if some of these bigger states can do it, then every state can do it. And then the media needs to stop, creating this situation where it looks like vote counting has stopped, because that's essentially what they're doing. You look at Arizona and Nevada right now, we're 2 days away from election day, and we still don't have a call in those states. But when you look at the math and the statistics, it's like the data, it's Trump's going to win those states. So why not just call the race? And they used to do that. And I think 2020 really made them gun shy on this because, they basically it looked like Trump was going to win. We went to bed that night thinking Trump won the election, only to find out that in the middle of the night, there was these ballot dumps and things changed. Now, I'm not going to get into, excuse me, what I think happened in 2020. I have my opinion on it. And I am going to have an episode talking about that, because if you look at the sheer vote volume from this year and 2016, and then compare that to 2020, it just seems a little off. We had 16 million less people vote this time around than in 2020, and 16 to 20 million more than in 2016. It doesn't really pass the smell test, but I digress. I just think the media needs to get back to calling these races. Like, it was obvious yesterday. It was obvious election night. Well, I technically it was Wednesday morning, but around midnight, 1 a.m., it was obvious Trump was going to win Michigan, but yet the media wouldn't call it. It was obvious Trump was going to win Alaska, yet it took him all day yesterday to call it. And I think in Alaska, there's still only 76% of the vote in. But you could have called that the minute it went over 50%, because Trump had he's got a 16-point lead now with 76%. He had that same 16-point lead at 55% of the vote in. It's an easy call, right? Like, you can call that race. But it took him all day. You knew Tuesday night he was going to win Michigan. it was pretty obvious Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning, like around 1, 2 a.m., that he was going to win Arizona and Nevada. But yet we still haven't called the race. So, but for those of you wondering why, I thought I would bring it up. I mean, it doesn't matter because Trump won. It's over. But if you're wondering why, I don't know why. I can't speak for the networks, but I'm here to tell you confidently that they could have called these races already, and they should. Because if us at home can look at the numbers and do the math and say, yes, you can't close the gap, the media can too, and they just need to start calling these races. But it's over. Like, Trump is going to win. There is no way to reverse that or change that. Kamala Harris came out and conceded yesterday officially. She said she called Trump. Still waiting to see how that phone call went. Nobody is really talking about how that phone call went between the two of them. But yes, she has conceded the race. She gave her concession speech yesterday. It is over. But if you're curious as to why these states are taking so long to call, I don't know. That is the answer. The reason I bring it up and I'm talking about it is because they can be called. And I just want you guys to know that these races can be called. Why they're not being called, I don't know. So I think the media needs to do a better job of calling these races sooner, because when it's obvious, it's obvious. And this year it was obvious. Now I want to get over to like the liberal media's reaction to this, because it's been quite hilarious. I talked about it a little bit yesterday on the show. And the media, and what I said yesterday is, if you woke up Wednesday morning and you're a liberal or a Democrat, and you woke up confused and your emotions were on a high alert status, and you were freaking out, like, how could this possibly happen? Then you needed to lay the blame at the feet of your liberal media. You're the people who you go to for your news, because they spent the last quite literally 9 years lying to you guys. And you keep drinking the Kool-Aid thinking like all these things about Trump are true. But for those of us who voted for Trump and don't actually listen to that media, and we know, because we know the truth, like we seek the truth. We've gone to see Trump speak. We've listened to most of his rallies. We watched him in office. We paid attention to his policies. And when we see what is being said and what is being done, and then what the media is reporting, and see how opposite it is, we knew they were full of shit and they were just lying the entire time, which is why the vast majority of us voted for Trump. Because almost nobody watches the left-leaning media except for you guys. So if you woke up completely confused, it's their fault, because they lied to you. They even on the issues, they made you believe that the issues the American people were voting on were not the issues that the American people ended up voting on. One of those was women's rights or abortion. You guys thought women's rights were actually at stake in this election. Why? Because you were listening to the liberal left-stream media, the legacy media, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, MSNBC, told you that these were the issues Americans were voting on. So you believed it. You were going into this election thinking the vast majority of all of us Americans thought those were the major issues, and they weren't. Not even close. Because the vast majority of us were more concerned about the economy, all the conflict going on around the world. We were a little concerned with open borders, and I'm saying that facetiously. We were extremely concerned with open borders and 20 million, and some of the estimates are closer to 30 million undocumented people just streaming across the border. Hundreds of thousands of which have criminal records. Some of those pretty vicious crimes. So those were the top issues for most Americans. And the fact that the Democrats have been radicalized, most of that party has become radicalized to the point of forcing us to use pronouns we don't want to use, allowing men to play in women's sports. And those were the things that we're like, yeah, we can't stand with that. And then, you question over half of the country's, religious beliefs and faith. And that just doesn't bode well with people. And I heard a guy yesterday on one of the news networks saying he was talking to like a carpenter or somebody like that. I can't remember who it was. But anyway, the guy said, I'm voting for Trump because the Democrats it seems like all they do is try to make me feel bad about myself. And that's true. Like, that's all they do. Is if you don't think the way they do, then you should feel horrible for who you are as a human. And that turns people off. And the only way you can stay in that mindset is if you are a highbrowed person who just thinks you're better than, right? Like I'm better than because I'm more educated, whatever. But you're not. But you believe the lies, so you think you are. And I think until the media, the left-leaning media, gets away from this highbrow, better than mentality, because, and I heard somebody say this yesterday, and it was really good. It's like, conservatives think that Democrats and liberals are just people with bad ideas, but Democrats think that conservatives are bad people with ideas, right? And there's a huge difference there. And I think that's right. I think that is 100% hit the nail on the head. Is vast majority of Americans, independents, conservatives, think that Democrats are just people with bad ideas. But that side thinks that everybody else are bad people with ideas. And that is where you see the vitriol and the hate. So if you woke up yesterday morning as a Democrat liberal, you got to blame the media. You would think that, and they know what they've done. These aren't stupid people, right? These anchors of these other shows are not stupid people. They know what they are doing. They do. They know they're not telling you the truth. They know the 34 felony counts that were filed against Trump were bullshit. They know that. They know it's lawfare. They know that if to take something that maybe qualifies as a misdemeanor, maybe with very, very little evidence could qualify as a misdemeanor, not to mention it's not even meeting the statute of limitations. And then they elevate it to felony charges. Right. That'd be like your local prosecutor. You get a jaywalking ticket, which is a misdemeanor. And then they all of a sudden decide to say, oh, hey, 10 years later, past the statute of limitations because they have an axe to grind with you. Hey, not only are we going to charge you now with this based off of, and the only reason, and this is the equivalent, the only reason you got the jaywalking ticket is because somebody else who wasn't around said, hey, I saw him jaywalking. So they're like, oh, we're not going to give him the ticket now, but later. And then 10 years down the road, they show up and say, hey, 10 years ago, somebody told us you jaywalked, which would be a misdemeanor. And it is past the statute of limitations, but we're going to scrub all that and we're going to elevate it to a felony charge and charge you 34 times. That's the equivalent of what happens. See, the vast majority of Americans understand that concept. And the people we go to for our news, which are mostly independent journalists at this point, because most of the media outlets suck, the people that we go to for our news tell us the truth. And they talk about it in the reality, in the context in which these things are happening. Your media tells you, oh, no, he committed some significant serious crimes, 34 counts, like this is a big deal. He's done all this illegal stuff. He should go to prison. Right. And they just browbeat you with it and they convince you that what's happening isn't anything other than lawfare. The rest of us sitting over here not trusting them because we know they're lying and manipulating. We just tune it out and we go search for the facts of what's actually happening. And we go to people who tell us the truth, which the vast majority of those people are not mainstream media people. So you would think, though, the media would learn their lesson, right? Because they know what they're doing. And they thought it was a shoo-in. I mean, I could play a montage for you of all the media pundits days before the election saying how they were guaranteed Harris was going to win because they thought they did their job in propagandizing for the Democrats. And they didn't. They failed. So you would think the vast majority, this was a mandate vote, guys. The vast majority of Americans came out and said, we rebuke you. We don't trust you. We don't believe you. And this was like a middle finger to the establishment. This vote was a huge middle finger to the establishment because the establishment for 9 years now has been trying to tell you orange man bad, orange man criminal, orange man Russian bot, right? Which is all bullshit, all made up, all propaganda. There is no evidence. Quite literally, every claim the media has made against Trump over the last several years has been thoroughly debunked. Thoroughly. And I'm telling you, people have committed crimes trying to attack Trump and get him out of this race. And he still won. Why? Because the vast majority of us don't watch that shit anymore. And if you look at the ratings for MSNBC, CNN, and ABC, CBS, all of it, they are at all-time lows. It is because nobody believes them anymore. Nobody. And you shouldn't. And I'm going to get to my point here, but you would think they learned their lesson, but they didn't, because Joe Scarborough just literally came out the day after the election and blamed men for Kamala Harris losing the election. Now think about this, men. And he didn't just blame white men. He blamed black men and Hispanic men. And then he went as far to say that he thinks Hispanic men, the reason they couldn't vote for Harris was because of racial issues, like meaning they're racist. So you encourage all these Hispanic and Latino guys that come across the border, come in. And now the ones that were already here, that are already citizens, you're saying, oh, you're too racist to vote for a woman. And it's crazy. It is like, how about maybe everybody thought she wasn't, her policies weren't good enough to win the job, that her experience wasn't good enough to win the job. Because when you take a poll of Americans who say, would you vote for a woman for president? It's a majority yes. It is 100% a majority yes, that all of us are fine with a woman president. But the media is already out of the gate. Let me play this for you because it is just absolutely absurd here. So let me bring this over. Let me just play this for you guys. It's absolutely absurd. Listen to this.
They need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men. Right. It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States.
There you go. So it might be misogyny, right? It might be misogyny. It might be that all men are just misogynistic. Like, when are they going to learn their lesson? When is the liberal media going to? So after the election, they are blaming the fact that Harris didn't win on, again, a demographic, right? An ist. This one, it just happens to be misogyny, right? All white men are misogynists. If you didn't vote for Harris, you're a misogynist, guys. White men, and he said, you heard the clip, white men, black men, Latino men. That's what the liberal media thinks about men in America. They're never going to learn their lesson. A day after the election, they are blaming men for Kamala Harris not winning this election. Think about that. Just completely discounting the fact that maybe the men who didn't vote for Harris don't support her policies, don't support the fact that she's done nothing as vice president, that her experience has been nothing more than a career politician who has accomplished very little in her career as a career politician. Never mind that most men who believe in the Constitution and the way we hold our elections didn't support her simply because the Democrat Party installed her as their candidate. But no. The liberal media is going to blame misogyny. And then he started tiptoeing the line of saying that all Hispanic men are racist because she's black. They're never going to learn their lesson. It is crazy to me that these are still the claims a day after the election. The liberal media is never going to learn their lesson. And this is going to backfire. And we know why they do it. We know why they keep attacking men and saying, hey, women out there, the reason there isn't a woman president is because all men are misogynistic buttholes, right? Because women outnumber population-wise men in this country. And their thought is that if we can get enough women spooled up, right, we can get enough of them spooled up to think that all men are misogynistic, and that's why they can never have a woman president, then they'll keep voting, the way we want them to vote. And it's going to backfire because the vast majority of women in this country see the bullshit and they're like, stop calling all of our guys misogynists. Like, this is ridiculous. They're allowed to not vote for a woman if they don't believe she's qualified, which is what happened in the case of Kamala Harris. Because I guarantee you put a qualified individual up there, a qualified woman up there, and it's like no brainer. Like, oh my God, like she is the best like a Tulsi Gabbard. I would have voted for a Tulsi Gabbard, but not a Kamala Harris because she's fake. Her policies are garbage. She didn't even come up with her own policies. She did nothing while she was in office. I have 100 reasons not to vote for Kamala Harris. Her being a woman wasn't one of them. It just wasn't. I don't care about that. And that's how most Americans feel. We don't care about the demographics card, right? But the liberal media and the Democrats still think everything revolves around race, sex, and that's it, right? That is it. And the same people telling you that, trying to tell women that all men are misogynistic and that's why Harris didn't win, are the same people telling you that it's okay for men to play in women's sports. So it's like, you do care about women or you don't. No, see, the reason they're able to be hypocritical about everything they say is because for them, it's all about control and power, right? It's not about, they don't care about being hypocrites. Hypocrisy is not a problem for them. Manipulation and control is what's important to them. And when all you want is power and control, you're willing to manipulate everybody, whatever it takes to keep that power and control. And the only way you can manipulate enough angles is to be hypocritical about all those angles. And so that's why you see the liberal media saying dumb shit like this a day after the election. It's crazy to me. So men, think about that. And women out there who get this stuff, because I know that's the majority of women out there. I know, because all the conversations I have conversations with black women, white women, mixed women, Hispanic women, and they all get it. They're all like, this is dumb. It's dumb. And the media is literally the left-leaning liberal mainstream media is just going to keep shooting themselves in the foot and to the point where nobody watches. That media outlet is dead. It is. And if you're a liberal or a Democrat, I'm just telling you now, stop listening to MSNBC. They're a joke. They've lied to you for 9 years. They have gotten quite literally everything wrong. Think about that. Everything they have said and claimed in the last 9 years has been wrong. Why are you even still watching MSNBC? They have not called one thing correctly. I mean, going all the way back to 2015, they laughed at Trump, said, his candidacy is a joke. It's a circus to get attention because, he's a reality star, that's it. That's the only reason he's doing it. But then he ran and he competed and he won in the primaries. And then they still laughed. Trump being president, that's hilarious. And then he won and became president. And then it was, okay, now we got to hate him. So we got to attack. And everything they said, every claim they've brought up for the last 9 years has been a lie, has been wrong. They have gotten it wrong. They keep trying to say, he's a convicted felon and blah, blah. And the appellate court is like inches away from reversing every single one of those decisions and possibly sanctioning the prosecuting attorneys involved. And the day after the election, you get somebody like Letitia James, who's probably going to get sanctioned by the appellate court in New York, coming out and saying, we're going to keep fighting. We're going to keep going after him. Really? Like, you don't know when to say when? Like, these people are going to end up going to jail over this stuff. Like, legitimately. They're going to end up going to jail because they are violating people's civil rights, specifically Trump's. They are violating the Constitution, all on political grounds. And that is just un-American and illegal. And they're going to go to jail. And MSNBC is going to keep telling you guys that all this is legit. And you're going to keep falling for it. And you're going to keep listening to it and going, we have a criminal in the, and it's all garbage, guys. They've gotten it wrong over and over and over again. So if you don't want to keep being disciplined, I'm not saying you don't be a Democrat or a liberal or whatever. I'm just saying stop listening to MSNBC because they are going to lead you astray every time. Because if you're somebody listening to this or watching this right now and you're an MSNBC watcher, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that over the last 9 years, everything they've claimed hasn't turned out to be wrong. I can tell you for the last 6 months, they've been claiming Trump ain't going to win. I can tell you that. And look what happened. You don't have to look any further than this last election to see what I'm saying is 100% true. Because if everybody believed he was a felon and everybody believed he was going to ban abortion and everybody believed women's rights were at stake here, why did he win in such a large fashion? MSNBC got it so wrong. So did CNN and all. But I'm just telling you guys, if you want to keep being disappointed, keep watching them. But if you want to get closer to reality of what's actually going on in America, you should turn them off. You should turn that channel off and never go back, because they will keep misleading you and misguiding you. I'm not saying you got to jump parties or jump ship or change your political ideology. I'm not saying that at all. What I am saying is if you keep watching that network and truly CNN, you're going to be misled to the point where you're always going to be deflated and disappointed. It's going to happen. But they're never going to learn a lesson. So guys, if you didn't vote, just so you know, if you missed it earlier, I played a clip by Joe Scarborough on MSNBC. If you didn't vote for Harris, you're a misogynist. The only reason you didn't vote, and according to Joe Scarborough, we all need to be honest with ourselves. The reason we didn't vote for Harris is because we're misogynists. So if you didn't know, now you know, right? And he didn't leave anybody out. White men, black men, Latino men, guys, all of us. We are apparently misogynistic if we did not vote for Harris. And we just need to be honest with ourselves and tell ourselves that. What a joke. What an absolute joke you are, Joe Scarborough. Anyway, guys, so turn off the media. I think Nevada and Arizona are going to get called today. But I'm going to leave it there for today's episode, guys. I love you. Thank you for coming back and for every episode. For those of you out there downloading the podcast, thank you. For those of you guys catching the live stream, thank you. I love you. The replay watchers over on Rumble, thank you. It means the world to me that you're here. Do me a favor and share it, though. Share it with your friends. Share it with your buddies. It's a daily podcast or episode that I do every single day. Leave me feedback and reviews so that I can make the show better. And for all my folks over on TikTok, who that's where I've been trying to build the largest. It's where most of my time is focused right now. Growing a platform is over on TikTok. So if you guys have not followed me over on TikTok, you can find me. Just type in my name, Justin Staten, at Justin Staten. It'll pop up. Give me a follow because all the clips from the show get posted over there as well. And I do lives over there, and we have like conversations. And so all of you over on TikTok, thank you. You're amazing. I love my TikTok family over there. You guys are awesome. But that's it, guys. Oh, also, just a quick reminder, I almost forgot, if you haven't picked up a copy of my book, We the Puppets, now is the time. It's the best time for this book to come out. We the Puppets, the audience for the best illusion ever performed, guys. Go out and pick up a copy. You can do so over on Amazon, or you can go to my website, justinstaten.com, and get a signed copy. It would mean the world to me. Thanks, guys. I will be back tomorrow for another episode. Until then, guys, stay informed, stay strong, but most importantly,